And welcome to the 2021 Billerica Cable Access Television and Billerica Minuteman Select Board Debate, or Candidates Forum, whichever you want to call it. My name is Joy Hosford, and I'm the Senior Multimedia Journalist with the Billerica Minuteman, and I will serve as your moderator for this evening. I'd like to thank the crew at the BATV studios for facilitating the broadcast of this debate. I am proud to be a part of this joint effort, and I am sure there will be many unique things during these election seasons. This is one of them, and thank you everybody for taking part. Election officials in the town of Billerica are working hard and will continue to work hard on providing the easiest and safest and most accessible voting process during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. We hope this session will inform you and make the voting process as smooth as possible. This program is being recorded via Zoom and remotely due to the pandemic to assure the health and safety of both candidates, myself, and the BATV staff. Tonight, our recorded broadcast will feature current Billerica Board of Selectmen member running to secure a fourth term, Andrew Delorier, and current Billerica School Committee Vice Chair, Darlene Torrey. The elections will be held on Saturday, April 10th. So we hope everyone goes out there and casts their votes. The structure of tonight's debate will be as follows. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to provide an opening statement, giving a short history of their position or background. Candidates will be allowed to take and reference written notes during the course of the conversation. I will ask 5 questions, depending on the span of time we have about 45 minutes, so we'll try to get through all 5. And each candidate will have a 2-minute time span to answer and a 1-minute period for a rebuttal. All right. And then finally, there will be a 2-minute time slot for each candidate for their closing statement. All right, so I'm gonna get out my timer here and make sure we have everything set up. Thank you. All right, so we'll go back to the opening statements and we'll start with you, Darlene. Go ahead.
Well, first I'd like to thank you, Joy, and the Billerica Minutemen and BATV for hosting tonight's debate.
No problem.
Good evening. My name is Darlene Torrey. I'm a mother, Billerica resident, vice chair of the school committee, town meeting member, community volunteer, and as always, a friend to Billerica. I'm running to be a member of the select board because this is a crucial time in Billerica's history. We can no longer have members of the select board encourage dense housing projects that will ruin Billerica neighborhoods. We can no longer have select board members who raise water and sewer rates when experts advise against the increase. We can no longer have select board members focused on bickering with other board members rather than working together for the betterment of Billerica. In 2015, Billerica hired the first ever full-time economic development coordinator and started to implement a strategy in which the main objective was the growth of commercial revenues as a means to minimize residential taxes while providing great jobs for our residents. At some point, the board moved away from a focus on the commercial growth and shifted its effort towards a strategy that focused on a majority of dense housing. I personally believe the current strategy is flawed, and as I've gone door to door and speak to residents, I know they absolutely agree. I believe the best decision processes do not include always a yes or always a no approach. While mixed use can be a tool to utilize in strategic situations, Selectman Delorier has focused entirely on the use of this tool to the detriment of our neighbors and threatens to forever change the character of our Yankee Doodle town. I will refocus our economic development efforts on commercial growth and only utilize mixed use when and where appropriate. Retail and restaurant growth will be a critical part of this strategy. In spite of the fact that the town of Billerica exceeds the state required 10% affordable housing stock and therefore can reject dense housing projects outright, Selectman Delorier has been a champion of dense housing projects throughout his tenure. He has advocated on town meeting floor for PUD zoning that allows dense housing and voted to blindly put that zoning on 125 parcels up and down Boston Road, including on conservation land. This zoning has opened Billerica to the threat of thousands of new dense housing units and is what is allowing the mall to tear down retail space to build 200 units of housing. My opponent also advocated at the ZBA meeting for the approval of a 50-foot high building with high density housing to be placed just 8 feet off of the Boston Road. Mr. Delorier also supported PUD high density zoning at Tech Park, and he even supports selling the town's riverfront DPW property to a private developer to put over 90 units of housing on this land. This is the wrong direction for Billerica, and that's why last year at town meeting, I voted to put a moratorium on PUD projects. My opponent voted against that article. In fact, just within the last few weeks, he once again reaffirmed his support of PUD zoning by refusing to support a warrant article going to town meeting that would repeal PUD zoning. It's time for new leadership before it's too late. Someone that will listen to the residents when they say they don't want dense housing projects all over town, and I'm that leader.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to Andrew for your 5-minute opening statement.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Joy, thank you, BATV, and thank you everyone who is choosing to tune in and invest in local government. My name is Andrew Delorier. I am a member of your select board, and I have been for a couple of years now. I'm also a dad and a husband, and a lackluster soccer coach, and all things try to be a good neighbor. I'm proud of my service to this town and community because first and foremost, the enormous responsibility of choosing your hometown for your children weighs on me heavily. And when you have the opportunity to make sure your children have the best hometown to grow up in, that's the responsibility you take on. And that's what that was my choice to join local government to build the best community I could for my kids who call Billerica home and have called Billerica home since birth. I'm proud of the things we've accomplished in my tenure in terms of Billerica, which is essentially developing more for the residents of Billerica and not empty promises. We've delivered more sewer to more residents in town than in times previous, and we've also delivered 2 schools. We've also left over $20 million in where it belongs, and that's with the taxpayers of Billerica in their pockets, and not taxed to the max as with previous faulty financial strategies. All these accomplishments take planning and forethought and making sure your Billerica is an adaptable and future-minded community while remembering where it came from. So all members of our community, both the youngest and also the most experienced, will find a home here in Billerica from a multifaceted community that addresses all their needs, both from a recreational standpoint, a working standpoint, and a place to call home standpoint. All these different factors we've tried to accomplish, because the way we do things is also just as important in terms of what we accomplish. We're always on camera and transparent in terms of what we do and also the process we take on to accomplish these goals. We want to make sure the way we arrive at a decision is as equally as important as the decision we come to. So overall, I'm proud of what we've accomplished for Billerica. I believe in Billerica's future, and we try to make decisions to make sure we're not just ready for tomorrow, but we're ready for 20, 30, and 40 years into the future. This positions Billerica both not only on a good financial standing, but a good service standing for all residents in town. I am encouraged to continue my service in terms of and providing greater, making more Billerica winners. And when we all win, raises all the different boats. And that's what we really, obviously there's things we continue to concentrate on to deliver the living arrangement we have in Billerica. And we want to make sure we continue to deliver a community that people want to spend time in and not just go to outside towns for things they need. It's my commitment to make sure all residents of Billerica feel home here, both corporate and individuals, no matter where they came from or how long they've been a part of our community. I'm proud of my service, and I look forward to continuing on after I'm reelected on April 10th. Thanks.
The first question is, and we will start with Andrew, as he's the incumbent. What do you think is the most important issue that Billerica currently faces?
Thanks, Joy. I think the most important issue is still navigating the pandemic that we're still in the deep thrust of. Unfortunately, our numbers are not going the right way. We've been bumping along at a plateau perspective, but really the Billerica community and town government should be proud of our response to this enormous international crisis. We've shown ourselves to be leaders in emergency preparedness and emergency response. So first and foremost, we need to mitigate this international challenge and get to the other side of it. Hopefully, increasing numbers of people who are vaccinated and keeping people continue to keep each other safe is first and foremost. In terms of things not pandemic related, we are always currently looking at how to make sure Billerica remains what the character of what it is, but also is prepared and adapts for the future. We've tried to take this on a number of different cases in terms of preparing both from a retail perspective, but also from a corporate perspective in terms of how we approach for the future. I think I froze, but nonetheless, Billerica is not going to freeze. So we want to continue because we need to be adaptable for the future. So first and foremost, and those things by adapting will keep Billerica both a place that you want to work, live, dine, and also an affordable place to call home and raise your children in.
So Darlene, would you like to answer the first question? What do you think is the most important issue facing Billerica?
Well, Joy, currently, it is the pandemic. It has affected so many of our residents through housing and food insecurities and being able to get vaccines, our students not being able to be in our school buildings full time, which we've just worked on that will start next week. And those are some of the current issues that are affecting everybody nationwide. But here in Billerica, I think our greatest needs are our roads, our housing. We're continually hearing about mental health and substance abuse. And those are big things that are important to the community.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to move forward to another question for both of the candidates. In the last several months, there have been personality issues and investigations into dealing directly with members of the Board of Selectmen. How would you, as a candidate who takes on a seat, work to make a stronger, more focused board? And Darlene, we'll start with you.
Well, Joy, that's a good question. And it has been the focus of the current select board, the bickering, the political fighting. It really needs to stop. We need to get back to the work of the residents. We need to get back to what's in the best interest of Billerica. I don't plan on being either a 4-1 or a 3-2. I plan on being one of 5, a member that will work with the entire board, not care whose idea it is or someone's political connection to somebody else. I'm going to vote what the ideas are and not who presents the idea. And I think that's something the board really needs to get back to doing.
Okay. And Andrew, you have a minute rebuttal if you'd like to take it.
No, thanks, Joy. I think it has been an unproductive year on the select board. It's been unfortunate. We haven't accomplished things for the residents. The only thing we have managed to accomplish is the passing of the Peggy Hanna Reserve Complex about 6 months too late and $600,000 more expensive than it needed to be. These kind of delays hurt Billerica. Billerica's always told to wait. We can get more done when we focus on the task at hand. I'm sorry we delayed on that opportunity.
Okay, and you can continue on with a 2-minute answer.
Oh,
so yeah, there's a minute rebuttal if you like to address anything that the other person says, and then you have about 1:30 to do your own little longer answer if you like.
Oh, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So moving on, I have a question directly for Darlene.
Joy, maybe I guess you call it rebuttal. What Andrew said.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So
time for Bill.
He had mentioned the Peggy Hanna Reserve project. I think every board member supported that project, and the residents all support that project. It's a fabulous project. As far as the $600 increase, that's speculation at best. The project hasn't even been sent out for a bid yet. So just like the new fire station, that came in well under bid. What, by voting for that project initially.
That's time. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. So question for you, Darlene. What makes you a current member of the Billerica School Committee, the right person for a seat on the select board? What's one thing that you've learned as a committee member that you feel that you can use as an advantage if you're elected?
I have a lot of accomplishments on the school committee that I'm very proud of. You know, I stand up for the residents. I'm very transparent. I brought forward a motion for the school committee to have a new policy where any member of the school committee can put something on the agenda, where originally it was just the chairman. You know, I participated in the opening of the new high school and go to all of their, well, most of their meetings. When the memorials of students who had passed away had been taken down and trees removed, I worked to make sure that those were replaced at the school. And I worked to make sure that our parents are heard and all of our students, our high need students, are taken care of. You know, I asked for an investigation into our special ed department that found that our students who were being restrained and secluded were not being taken care of, and that the state had found us out of compliance. So I'm very transparent. I make sure that all of the residents get to speak. I don't go by the 3-minute time limit. I let parents' voices be heard.
Okay, and Andrew, you have a minute for a rebuttal if you'd like to take that.
No, I'm a customer of the Billerica school system. I'm very proud also to be endorsed by the Billerica Federation of Teachers, many of which, well, actually most of which live here in town. I'm proud to represent those teacher educators in our community. I demand a lot of our school system, and I'm very proud to be key part of the only current member of the Board of Selectmen that select board, that voted for the Parker School and the high school. And I enjoy being that investment part from the select board's angle in our Billerica public education. So thanks.
Okay, great. And Andrew, this next question is directly for you.
Great.
How has your experience as a seasoned board member made you the best candidate for the seat? Sometimes people have the idea of it's better to get fresh blood in, but what makes you think that you have the experience and the wherewithal to keep going?
Well, I mean, I think those are two separate questions. In terms of the wherewithal, I think being a local elected official, and this is one thing me and Darlene probably agree on, has become increasingly hard in the past couple of years, given the political environment. But why am I think I'm good to tenure and to extend my tenure on the select board is because I've been able to be very successful in almost every single year I've been a part of the select board in terms of accomplishing getting things done. And no matter who has been on the board, I've worked with multiple different people on this board and on boards past to accomplish things like the Parker, like the high school, like sewer, like increased road funding, and like being strategic about our planning for the future. I think that flexibility and that partnership has built me a lot of trust, not only with town employees, but with town residents, because they've seen the results of what's happened outside their doorstep. They know when things happen in town because they've seen the results of those good decisions. They know when things don't happen, when those decisions don't get made correctly. So I think because of the depth of my experience and over many different issues, both schools, both infrastructure, and I'm looking forward to taking those lessons that we learned and applying them to new challenges, like a refurbished recreation center or COA, like a new DPW facility. Those kind of questions, or the kind of experiences I've built upon can reflect positively on those to make sure we're getting good value for our dollar there, but also we're dovetailing to what the community wants.
Okay, great. Darlene, you have a minute if you'd like to take a rebuttal.
I would just like to say, you know, as for the water and sewer rates, Andrew has increased the water and sewer rates every year except the past year, which was a pandemic. So the sewer and water rate increase is something that the experts came in and said was not needed. And instead of listening to the experts, like we continuously hear the board say, you raise the sewer and water rates.
Okay, Andrew, you have a minute yourself.
Sure, I don't remember saying water rates, but nonetheless, we have pursued a more fiscally responsible strategy with water and sewer rates. We've roughly charged what water costs to make it to the residents, and we also had to catch up from, frankly, folks not doing that appropriately, because we don't want big shocks to the system in terms of price increases for residents. We want us to make sure that it continues to be an affordable product, and also I just believe people should pay for what they use, and people shouldn't have to be caused to subsidize folks they're not paying for.
Okay, great. All right, so our fourth question for the evening is, two of the biggest issues in Billerica right now are housing and attracting new businesses. How would you as a select board member work to help bring in affordable housing and expand the business base? We'll start with you, Andrew.
Great, thank you. So affordable housing in Billerica has become an increasing challenge. I think anyone who drives around town and sees an open house in their neighborhood sees a line of cars, 15 cars deep, from any house at any price point. And we're seeing more and more houses sell over multiple thousands of dollars over asking prices. That has made an incredibly competitive environment for real estate and folks just starting out or folks who are continuing to keep their homes. There are over 5,000 people in Billerica who are housing insecure, which weighs on my mind heavily. And as I believe housing is a human right, unfortunately, I also believe we'll never have enough housing to house all those people, but we have to incorporate strategies going forward. I don't think economic development and finding places for folks who are looking for affordable housing are mutually exclusive goals. It also helps Billerica to make sure we're adapting to an economic future that's fundamentally uncertain. And the pandemic has changed a lot of things, but it's already changing. Folks who are looking to develop retail and dining type options, which many people are looking for that built-in customer base. It's just pure economics that they want those customers on site or as close as possible. When any resident in Billerica can order food from Lowell to Burlington within 20 minutes. But we can also leverage that strategy to have more housing options for those folks who are housing insecure, but deserve a right to live in Billerica as well. So both all those things, both economic development strategy and pursuing more affordable housing, particularly for at-risk populations like elderly and veterans who may be looking to downsize out of a home they don't want to maintain anymore, can be accomplished through the zoning strategies I've supported.
Okay, Darlene, you have a minute if you'd like to take it.
Well, I would like to see us refocus on economic development efforts on commercial growth and only utilize mixed use when and where appropriate. Because I think our retail and restaurant growth is critical, and that's where we need to focus our efforts. I think we need to look at our Council on Aging, and as our senior population grows, they need housing. Our veterans need housing. And I think one thing that we can do for like the Council on Aging is to look at their budget and help them support the programs they need.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add? You got a little extra time.
No, I just think that we need to partner with real estate professionals to bring economic development of commercial, retail, and restaurant. We need to be better community partners.
Okay. All right. So the last question of the evening kind of segues into our next candidates night. Has to do with planning. How do you feel, or what are your feelings on high density housing and its place in Billerica? And we'll start with Darlene.
That's a great question. I'm against high density housing. Like I said, I think that we need to focus on commercial and retail growth. Andrew is for high density housing. He's always championing for that. He blindly voted in favor of placing PUD high density housing zoning on 125 parcels up and down Boston Road. And like I said earlier, including some on conservation land. He voted for dense housing zoning at the mall, which will forever change the character of the Tower Farm neighborhood. He voted for 279 Boston Road, which he also advocated at the ZBA meeting for. And that was the approval of a 50-foot high building with high density housing, which is going to be placed only 8 feet from the Boston Road. You know, he advocated for the Middlesex Turnpike project. He voted in favor of Alpine, but to be honest, Alpine's a 40B project. It couldn't be stopped. What he really voted against was betterment for the residents in the tune of millions of dollars in free sewage, thousands of dollars in landscaping for individual homes. After the planning board had said the current PUD zoning was one of the worst bylaws ever passed, he voted against the moratorium at town meeting. His commitment to high density housing continues. Even within the last month, he still championed for high density housing by voting against the 2 warrant articles the Board of Selectmen brought forward.
Okay, and that's time. Andrew, you have, you could take the minute rebuttal, or you could just start right in with your 2 minutes. It's up to you.
So I'll start with the minute rebuttal. So I didn't vote for the 279 project because I'm not on ZBA, I'm not on the planning board. I didn't vote for the mall project because I'm not on the planning board. I voted against the Alpine project, and I did vote for the Middlesex and Lexington project because those are fundamentally different things. Putting that many units into a single family neighborhood was wrong, and my colleagues were wrong. In the Middlesex Turnpike Lexington project, we put it over a half mile from single family homes and supported incoming corporate agents that were looking for more housing for their workers. So we're supporting economic development growth. It's not always yes or no. Sometimes you gotta look at the context of the position, but I can only vote against or vote for things that actually come in front of the select board.
Okay, if you'd like to continue with the 2 minutes, go ahead.
Sure. So dense housing is sort of a misnomer of a housing strategy overall. Yes, there are actually places within Billerica that cannot support dense housing, and that was sort of bad mismanagement prior in years past when 40B did damage Billerica significantly. By putting out a strategy over Boston Road to support overall commercial development, we can do this in a more appropriate fashion. Will every one of those sites that mentioned within the plan unit development and emphasis on the plan have housing? Maybe and probably not. But we have to be realistic about the economic environment we're competing within. We have a highly competitive economic development with a large city to our north and Burlington to our south. Billerica needs to be able to support existing businesses along with new businesses with guaranteed customer flow and customer traffic into their businesses so they can continue to grow and succeed. That's what I've supported, and that's what I'll continue to support to make sure Billerica is an economically viable place to do business. We have to be realistic that the business and retail environment has changed fundamentally. Now, we also have an enormous housing crisis for a great many folks who are housing insecure, and we have a responsibility to do more for those where we can, but only appropriately. I think many town parcels like the Ditson and like the Vining are not appropriate for housing development there, and nor some multiple other places, because there are things still town needs that need to be done. Well, overall, without further commercial development and further commercial successes in town, we'll focus more of the tax burden upon residents, and also not allow for folks who are looking to get out of their homes and downsize, but want to remain in Billerica an option to do that while staying close to retail, shopping, dining options. Billerica's future is built on adaptation. We've done it before. We don't need to be scared into doing anything else.
Okay. Darlene, you have a minute if you'd like to take it.
Once again, I stand with, high density housing is something the residents do not want. I've gone door to door, listened to residents. Recently, let's take, for instance, a picture that Katie Mahoney posted on social media about the Enterprise Rent-A-Car place that's gone empty. Andrew voted against the warrant article that Selectman Rosa brought forward that would allow zoning for rental car companies to come back to Billerica. So when Enterprise Car Rental needed to expand, they had to leave. What that picture points out is a failure of economic development, because instead of focusing on filling commercial space, he has been focusing on bringing high density housing projects to Billerica. The results of that failure are they get a gas station, which is perhaps—
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So in closing, we'll have each of you read a 2-minute final statement. And we'll start with Darlene.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Joy, Minuteman, BATV, and my opponent, Andrew, for coming together tonight to make this possible. To the residents of Billerica, the importance of this election is historic, and the direction of our town is at stake. My opponent and I have two different visions for the future of Billerica. I believe in smart growth, development that is focused on retail, commercial, and restaurant growth, not dense housing. We will create a team to market Billerica like never before, and we will form relationships in commercial and retail real estate professionals to attract business to our town. My opponent is a champion of dense housing. He has supported numerous dense housing projects, including the Mall, 279 Boston Road, Tech Park, and the Middlesex Turnpike. His support for PUD zoning has made our town vulnerable to the threat of thousands of more dense housing units. His record for economic development, including tearing down retail space at the mall and replacing it with 200 units of dense housing in 4-story high buildings. His support of a failed economic development policy that let a great company like Insulet Pharmaceuticals leave Billerica and turn the Getty gas station on Boston Road into a rundown storage lot for trucks. And Billerica deserves better. I will bring you better. I will work to end PUD dense housing zoning in Billerica. I will protect our neighborhoods so that residents living near the Vining School and the old Ditson don't have to fear 50-foot tall high apartment buildings only 8 feet from the road. I will protect open space and encourage recreational use of these precious town properties. I'll hold the line on taxes. And most of all, I will appoint qualified applicants to town committees and not make political appointments. I would have supported the reappointment of Mary Leach to the Community Preservation Committee. My opponent fired Mary, instead appointed the candidate who tweeted that the
That's fine. Okay. So Andrew, your closing statement, you can start now.
Great, thanks very much, Joy, and thanks very much, Darlene. Thanks for the Billerica Minuteman, and thanks for BATV for consistently keeping Billerica covered. I thanks so much for all of you watching at home or on whatever particular device you're on for being invested in local government. Fundamentally, local government touches your life every single day, far more than any other elected office that you may vote for. So I encourage you to vote on April 10th and make sure your voice is heard. Over the last 12 years, I've been a part of the Billerica Select Board. I've been proud to make sure your voice has been heard in terms of making sure Billerica is a place you can work, live, and dine in an effective and affordable manner. We leave more than 20, even though we have left over $20 million where it belongs in taxpayer pockets. We brought in 2 new schools, multiple roadway projects, expanded sewer, expanded sidewalks, and supported first responders, and making sure we're delivering a quality product for your tax dollars. I look forward to continuing to make sure Billerica's future is bright by making sure it's adaptable for the future. We all know that the world has changed and our future is not the one that we grew up in. We have to make sure we're always positioning ourselves as a community to take advantage of the best of the things. I've been proud to appoint many different folks to many different offices within Billerica, and I'm happy to bring forward new and exciting voices into our community. One of the proudest things I can speak to is a school where my children have attended. Over 16 different native languages exist there. That amazing diversity, that diversity in background, that diversity in culture, that diversity in how folks identify themselves is what gives Billerica strength. I will never stop opening the door for folks to join our Billerica community, no matter how they join us or if they've been here for 35 generations. I'm proud to be part of Billerica. I'm excited about what we've accomplished in terms of new schools and new things. I'm excited for what's around the corner in terms of redeveloping services for our COA, but also doubling down on our commitment to quality recreation in our community that's been left to go fallow. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both for being here tonight. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the time of everyone watching. We have all of our candidate profiles up on our website now for Select Board, Planning Board, and for the gentleman that's looking to step into the school committee. So check that out at www.billerica.wickedlocal.com. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.